Hey guys, Big Daddy can't come today, but why don't you tag along with me and let's see if we can't learn something of the Mississippi story of the life of Confederate general, planner, politician, and even educator, Stephen D. Lee. Stephen D. Lee, the son of Dr. Thomas Lee, was born in Charleston, South Carolina on September the 22nd, 1833. Lee graduated from the U.S. Military Academy at West Point in 1854. He graduated 17th out of 46 in his class. Lee served the U.S. Army in several different staff positions and also with artillery for about 7 years. He resigned his Army commission in February of 1861 to enter the Confederate service. During April of 1861, Lee was acting as an aide to Confederate General Beauregard when he delivered the ultimatum to the Union troops under Major Robert Anderson to evacuate Fort Sumter in Charleston Harbor, South Carolina. This was just before the Confederates began their bombardment on April the 12th. Lee was elected captain of the artillery, but missed the Battle of First Manassas because of late delivery of cannon. He was later promoted to major and served during the Peninsula Campaign, the 7 Days Campaign, Second Manassas, and Antietam. As we begin to look around Lee's home in Columbus, Mississippi, let me tell you a little bit more about him. He was sent west to command the artillery for the Confederacy as it attempted to prevent the Union from gaining control of the Mississippi River. He battled Sherman at Chickasaw Bayou. He later engaged at Champions Hill, at Vicksburg, and of course he was captured there on July the 4th, 1863. After being exchanged, he was then promoted to Major General and placed in command of all the cavalry in Mississippi and Tennessee. After being promoted to Lieutenant General in July of 1864, he was given Hood's Corps in the Army of the Tennessee. They were defending Atlanta. His corps fought at Ezra Church and then Jonesboro during the fall of Atlanta. Lee wrote a letter to Miss Regina Lilly Harrison, his future wife, on December the 6th, 1864. In this letter, he vented his feelings about some of his experiences during Hood's Nashville campaign, specifically the Battle of Spring Hill. In this letter, he says, "I will mention no names. The First Corps reached the turnpike and formed in line of battle near Spring Hill, 800 yards from the road, 1 hour before sunset. The enemy commenced to withdraw from before Columbia about 3 p.m. and was passing Spring Hill just as our line was formed, and the 2 corps of the enemy was not exceeding 15,000 men. They made their escape to Franklin during the night without being struck a blow. Such another chance will not be presented again during the war. Orders were given to attack, and it was not done. The next day, Lee left Spring Hill with his 3 divisions and most of the Army's artillery not long after Frank Cheatham pulled out. Somewhere around 4 p.m., he got to Franklin, and he immediately found General Hood, who told him to go forward and find Cheatham. You are looking around the battlefield at Franklin out toward the cotton gin, the scene of some of the most fierce fighting of the entire Civil War. When Lee found Cheatham, Cheatham was a wreck because his corps had been torn to pieces. Lee asked Cheatham for help with direction, or at least some idea over the ground about which the division was to charge. Cheatham responded that he had no one left to help. They were either dead or already at the front. His troops would simply have to move to the left of the Columbia Pike, which you see here. It was around 7 p.m. and dark by this time, and Lee said it looked as if the division was moving into the very door of hell, lighted up with its sulfurous flames. The Confederates were unable to take the position, and the Federals escaped to Nashville around midnight. Lee received a leg wound during Hood's Tennessee campaign and returned to Columbus to recuperate. On February the 8th, 1865, he married his sweetheart, Miss Regina Lilly Harrison, at the home of her parents, which you see here. The couple had one child. Looks like Lee's in-laws' house is undergoing some renovation. After he recovered from his leg wound, he returned to serve the Confederacy in North Carolina. After the war, Lee returned to Columbus and eventually lived with his family in the home you saw earlier. He searched many different avenues for employment, even receiving the help of Confederate General Longstreet in his endeavors. He farmed, he dabbled in insurance, and even with the railroad at one point. He was elected to the state senate in 1878, and 2 years later in 1880 became the first president of Mississippi Agricultural and Mechanical College, later, of course, Mississippi State University. This is a statue of Stephen D. Lee on the drill field at Mississippi State, the same statue you will see in just a second in Friendship Cemetery in Columbus, where he is buried. His grave was a little bit hard for me to find in Friendship Cemetery, but if you'll come through the front gate and turn to the left and stay within 30 yards or so of the road, you will eventually see this statue. Stephen D. Lee considered running for governor of the state of Mississippi in 1890. He was basically talked out of this idea by his board of trustees at Mississippi A&M. Even though he had entered the race, he later removed himself from it. Lee served for 10 years as president of the Mississippi Historical Society. He was instrumental in founding the United Confederate Veterans Organization, and also he helped organize the Vicksburg National Military Park Association. He even served as its first president. In 1908, while at a meeting in Vicksburg, Lee passed away and was subsequently buried in Friendship Cemetery. As we leave the cemetery, we hope you've enjoyed your look into some of the highlights of the life of Stephen D. Lee, and we invite you to come look for yourself sometimes. We hope you've enjoyed another Mississippi story. Thank you.